Meeting come to order, please rise for the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to the village board meeting of September 25th, 2023. Roll call, please.
Musician?
Here.
Kraus?
Here.
Gardner?
Here.
Stacy?
Here.
Terry?
Here.
Giannotti?
Here.
In your packet, you have the minutes of the last meeting. Does anyone have any changes or additions? If not, can we have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
There is
One and a
multiple motions
One and a
here.
half.
And a second. Roll call.
Musician?
Yes.
Kraus?
Yes.
Gardner?
Yes.
Stacy?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Giannotti?
Yes.
Anyone in the audience wish to address the board? Okay, under my report, I would like to appoint Charles Ike to replace Kevin Bouchard on Planning and Zoning Commission. I think he'd be great for the board. He's a newer member and somebody who's not been involved in the community yet, somebody who's willing to get involved. So does anyone need any more information, or would someone be willing to make that motion?
I will make the motion approving your appointment.
All right, there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion? Roll call?
Giannotti?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Stacy?
Yes.
Gardner?
Yes.
Kraus?
Yes.
Musician?
Yes.
Okay. We have a possible motion authorizing the village attorney to draft an ordinance pertaining to the regulation of food trucks and referring the ordinance to the Public Safety Committee for review. There's a draft copy of the ordinance from a nearby community that could be used as a template. And basically, this came out of, we are beginning to have some food trucks that are interested in coming to town. In the past, we did not allow it. There are a lot of potential ways that we can address this. We can open it up, but we still feel that it's important to regulate it, to do background checks, most importantly, make sure they have health department permits. Did you have any information? I know they had called, some people had, contacted the hall.
Yeah, I've been contacted by someone from the local area who had a food truck for gourmet mac and cheese. And he is doing Crete Moniz basketball games right now, and has a good following, I guess, over there. And he was looking into maybe doing some things here in Beecher and becoming more involved in the community. It was wondering what our regulations were. And with our current regulations, I told him it wasn't allowed, but we would take it to the board and have them consider it.
Well, I'm going back a long time ago. The village board made a decision to pass an ordinance not allowing food vending from a mobile vehicle that was on the move like an ice cream truck, because there were concerns that a child could get run over in the street by the ice cream truck or by someone who.
That's
So
going
how
5
does-
miles an hour
Well,
with those bells ringing?
not by the ice cream truck, but by another
Oh,
resident
okay.
driving down the road. They were
Trying to
concerned
clarify
about it.
information.
Yeah, but this is different. This truck is parked. It's not, and it's in a park usually or in a common parking lot. The only one I can remember that we've had request this really wasn't a food truck, but it was a barbecue pit that they had near the liquor store. Remember? Smoky Joe's, I don't know what it was called at the time, but he ended up buying a restaurant in Chicago.
There was the one from Grand Park that was on
Yes.
MasterChef.
Yes, and I think the village board referred it to the PZC for recommendation. The PZC said, grant him a special use, came back to the board, it was a special use permit. That's a cumbersome process for a food truck. So you guys need to decide if this is something you want, and if so, what regulations do you want? They need a health permit, obviously. I would say the truck has to be stationary, it has to be parked when it's serving. But I don't know what other regulations you may or may not want for the food truck.
I haven't had a chance to look it over, and I don't know if it's in here. One thing I would like to see is if the board decides to do this as some kind of limit. Obviously, we have an industrial park in the town that we hopefully like to get going, and I'm sure there'd be a food truck or something you'd like to go over there, but I also want to protect the businesses we have in town. If we let whatever, a dozen food trucks over there that no one's gonna leave to patronize some of our businesses probably. So, I wouldn't mind maybe seeing a limit, or a limit on the number at one time, or is there like is there a time limit they have for the permit? Is that, do you know if that's in the?
It would be a yearly permit.
So annually, and that would grant them the entire year, whenever, wherever they want it?
Yeah, and it's written right now that there's a section here that says for no more than 10 food trucks per calendar year.
And that might be a large number, you might want a different number.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, like I said, I just haven't had a chance to go over it, so I don't know what is or is not in here.
Well, and it could be referred, this is to Public Safety Committee, go over it and, you know, maybe come up with some other ideas.
Can you fit that in between your ice cream cones? Yeah.
In between dinner and dessert.
So food trucks referred to public safety.
If anybody has any comments or something, they can just go ahead and email it to me. And work it out.
There you go.
Alright, sounds good.
That Joe, not that one.
Results of IML conference.
I'll let you know first. Oh, I can go
Last
first.
item. Go ahead.
While you're- while
I
you're
think
doing
she's
it.
typing it.
A good time was had by all, but no, Jeanette and I attended. I was there the full 3 days, I think Jeanette was there most of the 3 days. First day were meetings basically, and I sit on 3 committees, so that took up a lot of time. But then Friday, I was able to present on a session and then chair a roundtable, so it was kind of fun on Friday. That's the last time, it's my last IML conference. Been to 35 of them, that was my 35th. Next year, they're going to the Hyatt, so they were at the Hilton for the last 50 years, and now they're moving to the Hyatt. Sessions were very good. There's a lot of angst over this paid time leave act for part-time police officers, firefighters, paid on-call firefighters, crossing guards. They don't know how to handle that yet. There is no rule that says this is how you should do it. So that was one of the bigger topics at the conference, and there's no answer for that yet. There are some municipalities that are going to pass an ordinance stating that they are exempt from the state's policy because the state left a word out of the statute regarding home rule authority. So there's several home rule towns that are going to try to challenge it. But it goes into effect January 1st, and we got to figure out how to deal with it. That's one of the things. I'll let Jeanette continue on from there.
Well, he stole that one from me, so.
Should one first?
Yeah,
Should have gone first.
at the session, they had discussed who is covered by the act and what specifics for paid leave up to, well, there's the Workers' Rights Amendment, and then there's also the Paid Leave Act. You know, in the Paid Leave Act, we're talking about who it would apply to if there's a union contract in place that would trump the act, so. But the biggest pitfall with this is if you're following the act, then there's a potential of all employees being able to go, I won't be at work tomorrow at all, and having all of them just take the day off, and there's nothing you can do about it, because you cannot require them to give you notice, any really advanced notice, and they can do it for any reason at all. Which could really put some people in a trick bag. Our union contracts would cover that, but when negotiating in future union contracts, that's a big negotiating tactic that should be brought up, especially if you want to make sure that they can give you a reason and some type of lead time so that you know what's going to happen. One of the sessions I went to was on CISA. It's Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Agency. It's a federal agency through the Homeland Security, and I learned that they provide free cybersecurity scanning of websites and IP addresses to see what potential threats there are on your network. They also have no cost for weekly scans, which I did not know. They also have a lot of training resources for cyber and network security, and they'll actually come out on site and do an assessment of our facilities. So that might be something we can have a look at so that we can make sure to get our network secure, because cyber crimes are getting really smart these days. I received an email from a police department employee over the weekend that asked me to change his bank account information. And because of the wording, I know it wasn't him, but those kind of things are very common now, and people are changing vendors' account numbers and employees' bank accounts, and you don't catch it until a few weeks or some months down the road, and then you're out the money, you gotta pay it again, so. They also have some funding opportunities and free security software that's available through there to local governments, which I did not know either, and I have a contact person through CISA that I can reach out to and get more information, because it's kind of a complicated process, and cybersecurity is kind of complicated too, but that's all I have right now.
The only other thing under my report is later I'll ask for a closed session to discuss candidates for village administrator. Finance and Administration Committee, trustee Kraus.
Consider a motion approving the bills and payroll since last meeting. So I'll make a motion to approve the bills in the amount of $129,302.66.
There's a motion on the floor, is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second, discussion, roll call.
Possession?
Yes.
Kraus?
Yes.
Gardner?
Yes.
Stacy?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Giannotti?
Yes.
Audit for the year ending April 30th, 23 will be distributed the first week of October and presented at the October 10th meeting. 5-year financial plan process has begun, and the first draft will be completed prior to the retirement of our administrator, and will be handed over to the new administrator at the end of the year. And that's all I have.
All right, Public Buildings and Properties, Parks and Recreation Committee, trustee Giannotti.
Alrighty, Welton Step Park Improvement Update.
Welton set soccer fields have been completed, and it's up to Mother Nature at this point, so.
Can you give me an overhead photo of it for the newsletter?
Yeah, I'll try to, if I can get the bucket truck out there when it dries up a little bit.
So far, the weather's been good for that, so.
Yeah.
Keep your fingers crossed.
Yeah.
And then, Public Safety Building bid opening is scheduled for Wednesday, October 10th at 10 a.m. at the Washington Township Center.
October 4th.
Oh, I'm sorry, October 4th at 10 a.m.
And it's open to the public, so if any trustee wants to show up. But it'll take several hours, there'll be several bids for each trade, so.
And that will conclude my report.
Okay. Planning, Building and Zoning Committee, trustee Gardner.
PZC will be meeting this Thursday night to conduct a workshop on the proposed tobacco store. The next zoning ordinance steering committee meeting is scheduled for Thursday, October 12th at 3 p.m. here at Village Hall. That's it for me.
Okay. Public Safety Committee, trustee Terry.
Thank you, Mayor. The police department is going to be participating with the fire district at their open house, which is going to be at the high school on Friday, October 13th. It's relocated due to the construction on the Benfield Street stuff. We also have an update on the camera system for Flock, Chief.
Sure. President Meyer, members of the village board, good evening. The flock cameras that we ordered a year and a half ago and signed a contract for, the agreement said that we didn't have to pay until they install them, all of them. And the ones on Route 1 have been delayed because of IDOT. And Flock believes that they will be installed, we'll get approval in January. But in the meantime, they installed 2 temporary ones, one at Pasadena in Dixie, and one at Church Road, just a little bit west of, right next to the car wash.
North of the car wash.
North of the
Both
car
cameras
wash.
are on our private property.
So they're on our private property, so it's not an issue with IDOT. So again, we're not being charged until last week when they installed them, when they started. The representative Dan Murdoch told us that we were the last ones that signed the contract where you didn't have to pay to put the cameras up. They got very good shape.
It was imperative we got these cameras up because it was like we had peripheral vision on every entrance to town except the main entrance, so we gotta get those up.
And the permanent ones will be north of Hunter's Drive, because right now we're not gonna get
People are turning onto Hunters.
on Dixie pulling into Hunter's Drive.
Chief. And then Administrator, if you have an update for the adjudication at the Village of Peatone?
Yeah, Chief, let's see
Yeah,
what I handle.
so basically, Peatone and Beecher PD are gonna be going together to start an adjudication program for court. So, that would allow us to, charge a lesser fee to the residents or whoever we, happen to cite. But they, and it'll also relieve them going to Frankfurt for court, and they can do it here. And, I think this was in the works years ago, and it never came to fruition. I think, I believe, Peatone didn't wanna do it, but now they do. And, we're meeting on, the 9th of October to talk about, starting the program. We believe it'll be a successful program here in the village.
On the first of the year, under Dillon's rule, the state never gave us specific authority to hold adjudication as a non-home rule. But the state last spring passed a bill which goes into effect January 1st of '24 that explicitly states we have the authority. Even though a lot of non-home rules were doing it, there was always a question of could it be challenged down the road, because the state said, never explicitly said we could do it. Now we can, so.
The meeting's October 11th, I said the 9th, it's the 11th, so.
Thank you, Chief. That concludes my report, Mayor.
And Public Works Committee, Trustee Stacy.
Thank you, Mayor. Public Works Department monthly report is enclosed for your review. The Water Department monthly report is enclosed for your review. Water billing registry for the prior 2 months, the billing period is also enclosed for your review. We still have 68.5% bill to pump ratio, which means we cannot account for 31.5% of the water out of the system.
It's almost impossible. The only thing we can think of is there's a meter that's reading wrong at either
One of the master meters, yeah.
That's
3 or 5, because 4 we replaced, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where that water's going. I just,
You'd see it somewhere. I mean, you're talking 100 and something thousand gallons a day on average that we'd be losing, and there's no way. There's no way.
pressure relief valves on your system?
Nope.
but this ratio has not changed in over 20 years, so it's not new.
No.
But we keep battling this problem and we can't solve it.
It hasn't been this high. I mean, it was down to,
It was in the 50s before.
I know, but it was down lower too, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we
The
had,
last
we
year,
had it better
I
for a
think
while.
year and a half.
Yeah.
So this is, I believe this is trending up again, isn't it? Weren't we in
It's
the-
it's
Weren't we
averaging.
in the 80s at one point?
No. We were in like the lower 70s.
What we're finding out is in the summertime, when we're pumping a lot of water, the ratio is lower. But in the wintertime, the gap lessens, which makes me think it's a well meter. You know what I'm saying? It'd be consistent if it was leaking. But when you pump more water in the summer, the gap is wider. So it's gotta be a meter.
I've been trying for years. I'm lost. I really am. I really am. So I got that price from Emmy Simpson to do leak detecting. We could try it. I mean, I think it was less than $3,000 to do all of our ductile mains that remain in town. So, I mean, we haven't had great luck with it, but at least we're doing
Trying
something.
something,
You know, I don't know. We haven't done leak detecting in, like actual leak detecting in probably 6 or more years, I would think. Like a system-wide, at least ductile system-wide.
We had Simpson do it. We were not happy with the results, so we brought in ADS. ADS did it, came up with the same
Same
results.
results. Yeah.
So we had two
Plastic
competing firms doing
is
the same detecting.
plastic is almost impossible to leak detect. That's not even worth our spending a penny on trying that. The ductile stuff you could try it, but even that's hit or miss.
Okay, moving along, 2023 sidewalk replacement program update. 9 bids were solicited for this year's program and no bids were received. Either we can rebid the project in the spring or defer until next fiscal year, and use the funds for additional road surfacing what we do this next year. Penfield construction project update. There's been a change in plans in order to move the project along much quicker, and this will be explained at the meeting.
Yeah, going back to the sidewalk program, would the board refer to rebid that project in the spring, or wait till the next fiscal year and bid a bigger project out? I think it's the dollar amount that's hurting us. It's not big enough.
It's either that or the companies are getting too busy that we always bid at the end of the year. I remember in all years past, we've always told the companies, make sure that whatever you tear out is put back in place by Halloween, so there is no issue with kids trick or treating. So we're actually a little bit ahead of schedule, but I know that there's a lot of companies that are behind schedule due to, you know, labor, not having the labor force this year, and they took on too much work. So we could try to go back out to bid in, say, March, and try to get some sidewalk work done in, say, April, still get it done in this fiscal year, or we increased our budget this year to do road work out of the same line item, out of the infrastructure line item, that we could turn around and, instead of borrowing that off of next year's plan, we could use this year's sidewalk money towards that, but next year we'll just be behind the 8 ball on sidewalks, which I honestly don't think we'll ever catch up on sidewalks, because sidewalks just continue to fail,
But technically, we did do sidewalks in Indiana Avenue.
on Indiana, yeah, we paid the county $25,000 for sidewalks on Indiana Avenue that we were forced into.
Could we save or pass this money on to the next budget and then just increase the line item next year for this year's?
You'd have to,
Double.
do a line item encumbrance, is that what it is?
Yeah.
And
You'll just increase the budget next year.
next year, yeah.
Just roll the money and do double the work, and maybe you actually get somebody to bid on it, cause there's enough work to bid on. Yeah, I don't know if it's that, I think it's what you're saying, just knowing how the construction is right now, but maybe it'd be a little more enticing to pull the project if it was double what it normally is. Cause what do we normally?
25,000-ish, around there.
So if we went for 50,000 in flat work next year, might entice a couple more contractors to bid it. Cause they're probably only if they do have time to take it, they're probably taking bigger jobs than they are smaller jobs.
Get a quick buck at the end of the year.
Yeah. Dangle a little bigger carrot out there.
Does the committee have a recommendation?
Me personally, I would double it up for next year. Because the bigger the project, the more dollar amount that they're looking at. I mean, would you rather come out for $50 or $300? Yeah.
Part of our issue too, that I've heard from some contractors in the past, is that our projects are all over town. It's not designated to all of Woodward Street or all of Mallard's Cove. It's 10 squares of sidewalk on Miller and 15 on Woodward
We
South.
try to keep the
and
residents happy.
Exactly.
And you get charged for that when they have to go from one area to another. You
Yeah.
get charged for time.
You know, that takes manpower, is, finishers and things like
Oh,
that,
yeah.
because they can't be bouncing around all over the place. That takes multiple finishers to be able to take care of that, so.
If we rebid this in the spring, even if we got people to bid and we didn't like the bids, can we just say no and save it for next year? So would that be a way to see if it's the time of the year, or do you already know that?
No, I didn't hear anything from any one of these. I went out to bid for 9 different companies, and not one of them even called me to say, sorry, we can't bid. I didn't hear anything.
You didn't even get a no for the dance, you got a
Nothing.
nothing.
Got it, nothing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that'd be worth the time to bid it and rebid in the spring and see if that way we can narrow it down, or it's the time of year.
It may, 'cause I
If you
mean,
think it's not, then
you-
don't even bother.
Usually in February, March, those types of companies are starting to book for their upcoming season. So it may not be able to be done in April, because they may be behind on something this year that they can't do, and they'll have to do that first thing in April. But then we would have to take these funds and
Then you'd have to encumber it.
encumber it.
If you authorize the
Specific.
contract, you'd have to encumber it.
Right.
It's semantics, it's one half a dozen.
Yeah.
Whatever you wanna do,
Wait for next year then, that's what the recommendation of the committee.
yeah, double the program.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's what I thought.
Penfield Street. The east side is moving along, the sidewalks and driveway ramps, if they were concrete, have been poured on the north side. They're getting ready to pour the south side now as soon as they get dry weather, but tomorrow doesn't look good.
either just
So it's
Wednesday.
probably gonna be Wednesday or Thursday before they concrete the south side. The west side of the tracks, or west side of the bridge, excuse me, we are going to follow a different construction schedule, and all the property owners along Penfield have been notified by this time that we are going to start from the railroad tracks to the fire station. We're gonna shut that whole section down. You can cross at Woodward Street, but the rest of that road is gonna be closed, and they're gonna core that out and dig it out. They can't do the east phase first because deconstruction's not done with the bridge. Right now, they're putting a decorative brick on the bridge, I saw that today, it looks really nice, in fact, it looks very similar to the old bridge, the style that they follow. Once D gets done, and the west phase gets done, and we're cutting about 4 weeks of construction schedule off the job by doing it this way.
Right.
The fire station will have access to Maxwell Street while we're doing the west phase. Police station, you guys are out of luck, you have to figure it out. Post office, they're gonna have the post office parking lot open, and you can park there, walk behind the post office and up the alley and in the front door. We have some minor issues to deal with St. Luke's Church yet, and I think Anna Tristan's been handled now with her questions. So we have all that in play. We're gonna allow temporary indicator signs for the businesses on Penfield that are affected, showing them where to go to park during the closure of Penfield Street. So there will be some off-premise signs that I've approved for 60 days, and I think you picked them up already.
Today, I picked them up
Picked
today.
them up?
Yep.
And we'll be putting them up probably on Wednesday when the road is closed, indicating where to park on Reed Street for the temporary commercial parking lot.
I have signage on for Reed Street parking to put in front of the caboose and the depot area and stuff like that, designating tenant parking for the people that live above the businesses, and as well as business parking. That specifies Anna Tristan Tolley, Sophia's, and Ernie's Barber Shop are all listed, so that way they have designated areas for their patrons to park.
So if you see signs that say construction access for these businesses, those are village issued signs that we're putting up at Miller and Dixie and at Indiana and Gould to direct people to go to those businesses, and that'll be for 60 days. Once the west phase is completed, then we go to the east phase, which will be from the fire station to the bridge. The fire station will have access on the west end of its driveway to get out to Woodward Street, so we're not relocating any fire trucks or equipment. They can sleep there, they can respond to calls from there. We'll get that east phase done, and they're telling us November 3rd, they're gonna have everything done. And our goal is to have everything hard surfaced with bituminous, not the final
Yeah,
layer.
with binder.
With binder by winter. So that'll be done. Then in the spring, they will come in, put the final layer on Penfield, and then do all of Gould.
Gould, yeah.
And they have to, the coordination on this job is unreal. You gotta get the flagger from the railroad there. You gotta get ComEd to do temporary drops sometimes. You got AT&T cables in the way. It's a big moving piece, you know, so. But all the property owners have been advised, they're happy. Well, I can't say they're happy, but they understand.
They've been advised.
They understand. It's terribly inconvenient, but I think next year at this time, everyone's gonna forget all about it and say, boy, that's a great road job, you know? I'm trying to think, there was one, and Carol Van Alven, she owns a house on Penfield, and I talked to her today, we're taking a foot of her wall out, putting a concrete retaining wall there, and the state approved some river rock to go in there to give them some decorative landscaping, so that issue got resolved today.
Okay.
So we're moving forward. It takes a lot of time, this Penfield job.
Yeah, we have a meeting tomorrow at 1 o'clock.
Tomorrow,
With them?
after the GMA Architects construction meeting, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Bob, you talk. Indiana Avenue resurfacing project update. As of the printing, we are waiting for the striping to be completed by the county so we can add the linerators to reestablish the quiet zone. This was a water valve failure right under the new pavement at Woodward, which the village had to cut in to replace, and we will have this patch later this fall. Project is nearly completed. 2023 street resurfacing project update. Superintendent may have a schedule for us at the meeting of when the work will begin.
So, parkway work, some of the residents chose to have their parkways resurfaced or fully asphalted. Some areas had not been asphalted in the past, they chose to. I think we got roughly 12, which shocked me.
Poured out and
Yeah.
actually put,
Mhm.
oh, wow.
That's at their own cost, right?
At their cost, yes, at the residents' cost. They began that today, obviously, they weren't planning for rain. They were planning on milling the roads on Wednesday and having all the asphalt work done by Friday, but it sounds like they're obviously being pushed back with the rain today and the potential of rain tomorrow and Wednesday. They may be milling on Friday and then paving next week, but it should be done by the end of next week, 100% over there. So.
And the last item is the Dixie Highway Water Main Replacement Project update. The project was approved for the laying of bids last month, however, the engineer's estimate cost has increased now to $1,202,000, which has changed our financing plan significantly. We will now need $100,000 in reserve from O&M and $291,000 in reserves for the water and sewer debt to cover the cost of this project, and also $500,000 loan from the water and sewer debt to cover the period of time we are reimbursed by the county for the ARPA grant funds. Please see the enclosed report. Bids will be open on November 9th, and we will then have 120 days to get our act in order to cover the actual cost. Work will begin in April of 2024. And
Every time I turn it, this thing goes up 100,000, this job. It started at 750, remember?
Yep.
I say we get it bid, get it locked in, and worry about how to pay for it next summer. That won't be my problem, it'll be your problem. We gotta get this thing done, because every time I turn around, the costs are going up.
It does.
We gotta get this thing done, you know? We have the money now to do it, but if it keeps going up, I'm concerned about how we get it done, you know?
Did you try reaching out to the state by chance today?
I didn't
The
have a
permitting?
chance, but you know what, talking to them is like,
Yeah.
you know, I would delay the bidding a little bit longer, but no more than 30 days. The engineer wants to delay the bids because IDOT hasn't approved the project yet.
They
They
confirmed that
approved it
it's,
once before.
yeah, they confirmed that it's sitting on their desk now, they just haven't had a chance to re-review it.
Yeah, it's been reviewed and approved before, but we had to withdraw it and the permit expired because we had other priorities that came up. We had the Miller Street and other things, so we pulled off that permit. Well, it's already been approved, now they want another review of the same job. So here we sit. And I don't know, do you take a risk on awarding on letting bids, or do you wait?
The problem with that too is that there's no bond statement, right, with the 10% or whatever the state's gonna require for that, and the contractors don't typically like throwing a bid out there without knowing what that cost is as well, because that could be pretty significant.
But while we wait,
Yep.
I don't know.
I'm hoping that they,
At what point does it get
too
so
much?
high?
Yeah, right, yeah. I'm hoping that the engineer's estimate is kind of like the Dunbar
Yeah.
Street. They came in double what the actual bids came in, and we ended up doing more work that year because we had budgeted more funds, but yeah, you're right though. At what point do you say enough is enough and we just can't
There's
afford it?
120 days to award, so you have, you know, November 9th, you open bids, and it's another 120 before you can award. That gives them 4 months yet.
Mhm.
I say let's go, but you guys make the decision. You guys can reject the bids, but that's costly to do that too, if you don't have the permit. I don't know, we're at the mercy of IDOT on a lot of this stuff.
So if we award the bids and the permit doesn't come through,
Well, you wouldn't award the bid unless the permit was there. You could approve a bid, what, by pending IEPA, or IDOT, it's actually not the EPA, they've already awarded, or approved it, but it'd be the actual IDOT for going underneath the road surface is what we're waiting on.
so we get the bids, we wouldn't actually approve it within,
Right,
unless
we have
unless we got the permit within that 120-day window.
Right.
And then if that doesn't come through,
you meet with the lowest bidder and see if he'll extend his bid. He's obligated to extend it 120 days. Now, in the case of Iroquois paving, we got them to extend an additional 120 days before we awarded that job to Penfield because of the same problems. IDOT couldn't approve its own work. But that's the chance you take.
See where the bids
I
come
think
in.
it's worth going out
Yeah.
now and not waiting.
See what the numbers come in at.
I think the engineer's high.
Maybe I'll push it back 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That's about it. That gives us 15 more days.
All right.
And the last thing, Mayor, we need to go into executive session for personnel matters and public works.
Okay, we can do all those in there.
And that's concludes my report.
Economic Development Community Relations Committee trustee session.
Thank you very much. Holiday tree lighting ceremony prep meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, October 11th. The Ileana Crossroads Business Park and Union Electronics building update will be provided by the administrator.
Am I providing, I'm sorry, I was writing that.
Am I providing?
Indiana Crossroads.
Oh,
Business Park.
Union Electronics, yes. The village engineer has approved the site plan for the project and all the engineering, pending the permit from the Soil and Water Conservation District. Once Art gets his permit from the Soil and Water Conservation District, and they approve his plan for erosion control, which is the issue, they can begin mass grading on the project. He's planning on doing that and start next week on the mass grading. So that's what we're waiting for, is that one permit.
They were mowing the property today, and ComEd's moving all the poles, making the entrance area wider. They're moving the poles today.
Okay. So it's moving.
Wonderful. That concludes my report.
Okay, now could we have someone make a motion to go into executive session to discuss village administration?
New business? Or
We'll do-
You can do that here. I would do it on camera, yes, this one.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Pardon?
New business?
Yeah, he has an old, what's an old new business item.
All right, do that before. Is there any old business to come before the board?
Yes, Mayor. I have something. Last week, we met, the police department, EMA, the fire district, and the school district. We all met in reference with the school and student activity parades. And we kind of did a collaborative meeting as to, what's actually gonna, how we're gonna celebrate them, you know, like what's gonna constitute to have the parade, the actual parade route, you know, how things are gonna take place when the team arrives and who's gonna be communicating. We will be having a parade this evening, so, depending on how our junior high girls softball team, finishes their game. Last update I got was in the 5th inning and we were winning 2-0. So, our fingers are crossed, but, Chief, or Director Hank, if you have anything you wanna add from the meeting, or?
No, we sat down, you have our kind of guidelines in front of you. I think it fits everything we need to have. The biggest one is no sirens after 10:30 at night. Last time we had a parade at night and didn't use the sirens, we got ridiculed. So everything's in here. I did talk to athletic director and I sent them both of these copies and I asked them to make sure the parents understood our new procedure. And he said he would. So I think we covered everything that we need to cover for that. We changed the parade route. They asked that we do 2 streets in every subdivision, which we pretty much did. I sat down and they left that up to me to come up with the route. So we put it together. We will do it in a map form when we have a little more time to add to this. So now Bob will put this in a resolution. The school district will sign off. This board will sign off and the fire board will sign off. And this will be what we do from here on in.
It'll be an intergovernmental agreement between the 3
Right.
boards.
Well, however you do it, but.
As to what the parade route is, but then it's concisely clear what is going to happen when
Yes.
a top 4 team returns back to Beecher.
Right.
And that was lacking, and there's miscommunication, and parents were getting upset, and
We did try to do anything after a certain time at night to go to the following day, but school was not up to that, it was too much to put stuff together. Like tonight, if they don't get in till 11 o'clock or 11:30, we will do the parade, just won't be siren, but that was one of the things we tried to push to the next day, but they didn't wanna try to get everybody back, and I understand that, so. I think with all parties involved, I thought we'd come up with a pretty good, guideline for what we're gonna do, and we'll see how it goes.
it's for any IESA or IHSA sanctioned event.
Yes,
Okay.
I mean, we're gonna use this for PAC or anybody else will try to do the same thing, so this will be the standard for everything. I will have, this stuff put on all the Facebook pages tonight, as soon as I get a call, when they'll be back in town, so people will see that it's happening tonight and put the parade route out there.
It's gonna happen tonight regardless.
It's
right?
happening
Top
tonight.
four.
Yeah, it's gonna be the championship or
It's
something.
either first or second.
Yeah, so, it will happen, just a matter of what time they get back, so. But anyway, I just wanted to bring this up and see if there's anything you wanted to add, or anything we need to change.
Why does this need to be an IGA with the other bodies? I mean, isn't this, I mean, like, say there's construction, we need to change a parade route, we gotta do another, like, modification to an IGA with everyone and have them sign off on it? I mean, isn't this just something that's sort of the police department, EMA's purview, public safety? I mean, I think this is a great idea to say, hey, this is the standard, this is what we're gonna do. But, I mean, does it really need to be that formal where like everyone's gotta sign off on it, and, I mean,
I think it's a good idea to have everyone on the same page so nobody complains and.
well, but
Here
why
you
do they
go,
need to sign
this is
off on
why.
it? Well, yeah, this is gonna be posted everywhere, like I said, this is a great idea.
Yeah, so have everyone sign off and be in the same room and say, yeah, we all agree.
I mean, we do have other, and that's the thing, I mean, we've got the school buses and the fire department, they're all taking place in the event, and that's why we figured it would be best to have an intergovernmental agreement. This way, everybody knows what the standard is, nobody can complain, the fire department can't just go off and divvy off the route, and the police department can't go divvy off the route, everybody knows specifically
And all
what's
three
going on.
boards voted on it.
And everybody voted on it, so. And I think, I don't want, sometimes I don't want it to sound negative when it comes to, like the school not wanting to participate in the next day. I think some of the things that we discussed at the meeting was, you have all the energy, and everything coming back, and the kids are excited to, do the parade right now, and sometimes, it's just, instead of waiting it the next day, everybody knows now, well, hey, this is gonna be the route, we're gonna be going past CVS, so make sure everybody's in the CVS parking lot, or, it's gonna end at whatever school, like right now, tonight it'll end at the junior high, but if it's a high school event, well then, it'll end at the high school, and so this way, everybody's on the same page. I think
We
it was
could put
great.
wording in there saying, in the event of a road closure, the EMA director has the right to temporarily change the route,
Adjust the route.
something like that.
yeah, I'm just trying to make it easier if stuff needs to be changed. I mean, if you guys wanna ever sign off on it, that's fine.
Just putting it in front of everybody.
Now, they can honk their horns, we're just not blowing sirens.
Correct.
Yeah, that will be happening tonight, they'll be honking, and that's fine.
I mean, is that be okay with the 10:30, no siren?
Hey,
Yeah,
you
zero
compromise.
And the reason why there's no golf carts allowed is because we're crossing
We're
several
gonna be,
main
we're
roads.
gonna be going on Route 1,
Yeah.
so that,
Oh, except that one.
There'll be one, there's always an exception to the rule, Bob.
But it hasn't been signed.
That's all I
We just wanted to.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any old business to come before the board? Okay, now can we have a motion to go into executive session to discuss applications for village administrator and public works personnel? Would someone like to make that motion?
Motion. Second.
Roll call.
Giannotti,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
Stacy.
Yes.
Gardner,
Yes.
Kraus.
Yes.
Gresham.
Yes.